Hello and welcome back to Aetheral Space 16.5, The Arrival. We are back. Hello.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute. So, as a reminder, if you enjoy Aetheral Space, but you really want to stick it to us, do not leave a review.
I would be so mad.
He would be so mad if you didn't leave a review. So you better do it. Yeah. Just the thought of someone enjoying the series and not leaving a review is like... Basically, it's like doing a second 9/11. So just consider that. But against your own country.
It's like doing a first no.
It's like doing a 9/11 in your own heart.
The second one was.
This is preparation and training. You're basically admitting... I don't know. Alright, anyway. I don't know where this bit's going. I'm just going to read the chapter. Whoosh! One good thing about Bruno moving around on his own meant that, for Serena, walking was now somewhat optional. Instead, she was free to get a piggyback ride from him as he rushed down the train tunnel, his purple crystal feet pitter-pattering against the tracks. She threw her hands up as the wind pelted at her hair. "Woo!" she yelled. "I can't believe we've never... I swallowed a bug!" "This isn't a game," Bruno shot back. "Something's going on." They'd been on their way into the shopping district for the afternoon when there had suddenly been a violent tremor and the train had screeched to a halt. They'd started evacuating people, and the public announcement system was saying something about a state of emergency. But Bruno and Serena were the sort of people who like to check things out themselves. And so they did. 2 more jumps brought them out of the tunnel, and 2 last jumps brought them out into the sunlight, or rather what should have been the sunlight. A shadow was cast upon the earth, a great 5-pointed star, bristling with weapons and perched automatics, floating over Serendipity like a great weight. Security automatics buzzed around it like flies around a carcass. Anyone in the galaxy would recognize this craft on sight. The very center of the universe, the supreme terror, the Shishanaga. One of the few vessels in the galaxy that could move with complete freedom. The flagship of the supremacy, the pinnacle of its military technology, the marker around which the universe turned. It hung over Serendipity like a leech awaiting its meal. It's really funny to me, because I get what you try to do. Like it's lingering over it like a predator, and it's sucking at it like a leech. But it doesn't really work, because that's not how leeches work. They don't go, I gotcha! They jump out at you like an ambush predator.
It's like stuck there.
Yeah. As he looked up at the mechanical monstrosity, Jamie Pirot stepped forward on trembling legs and placed a trembling hand against the window. The glass was still warm, and oddly not trembling, retaining the sunlight, like the body heat of some awful living thing. He swallowed. This was impossible. This should have been impossible. It was true that the Shishanaga could make jumps without the use of a light point, but even so, to organize a rapid series of jumps right into the heart of UAP territory, right into the heart of the capital, this could not have been done on a whim. There had to have been planning involved, a great deal of planning. The prince should have noticed the web of the galaxy tightening, but it hadn't. Somehow, the person who had done this, the Supreme, had managed to fool the prince itself. That, more than anything, sent a shiver down Pirot's spine. What is this? He only remembered he was not alone when he felt the Landgrave's heavy hand upon his shoulder, pulling him away from the window. Both nebulas had charged into the room to defend their heads of state. Sir Ethel Faust stood between the window and Albert, sword drawn, while Beckett del Brainan had cut to the chase and produced claws of bone from his fingers. Classic! Everyone, we all remember. Every set of
the screen and clapped. I recognized it and I clapped.
Every set of eyes was locked on the intruder in the sky, awaiting the beginning of the assault. At this point, that's pretty much just a little thing for us. And maybe like 4 people who are still around. That's very funny.
I still think it's still so funny. You sent me that like with no context.
Let's cut to the chase. And yet, it never came. The gargantuan ship just floated there, as if waiting, releasing not a single automatic and firing not a single shot. Around it, the city was going into lockdown, defensive barriers rising up to cover streets and suburbs, skyscrapers sinking downwards to escape the danger zone. The constant flow of traffic had vanished from the skies. Just by being here, the Shishanaga had brought the entire world to a halt. Pirot's earpiece beeped, and he put a finger to it immediately. Deep tremors were still running through his body, but he couldn't afford to entertain shock right now. He'd been presented with a new board, one the enemy had already started playing on. Moves had to be made. "This is Pirot," he said, still half-dazed, to whoever might have been on the other end. "Report." Zhurong's voice came back. "Tell me you're seeing this too." "I'm afraid so," Pierrot said grimly, before tapping another button on his earpiece. "You're on speaker. I'm with the Landgrave and Albert." "What is this?" Carl growled, still looking up at the vast vessel, his fists clenched. "We didn't see this coming. Nothing was detected." "I'm afraid not. As far as we can tell, the Shishanaga must have executed a rapid series of jumps all the way from its original position, right here into our skies. Took them around 2 hours. The numbers were put together by the invisible hand in Pierrot's head. 16 jumps in all to cover that kind of distance, in the time they did it in. There's no way their systems are in any good state after that. Even the Shishanaga can only be pushed so hard." Albert nodded in agreement. "It's the same reason why light points don't just rapid-fire ships all day. The damnable burnout. I'd wager they're stuck here for the time being." If this is their destination," Carl muttered, "it doesn't matter if they're stuck." "Did it not?" Who's speaking? Zhurong?
This is his thoughts.
Okay. "The Supreme is launching a direct personal attack on Serendipity." The prince offered no argument against that, but it still didn't seem to make sense to Pierrot. Why just the Shishanaga? It was perhaps the most formidable starship in the galaxy, but there was only so much it could do by itself. It needed a fleet to support it, armies to deploy for ground warfare. If this was an invasion, it was a somewhat half-baked one. "I've received word from the other councillors," Zhurong said. "Bar Abrafassad and Pandershi, they're heading for the nearest panic rooms. I'll be doing the same. I'd recommend you do too." "Not Abrafassad and Pandershi?" Carl scowled. "Why?" "I've just been told that Yulia Ifoid left Serendipity around half an hour ago. She's already on her way home." "Damnable harlot!" Carl snarled. "She saw this coming and said nothing?" "And Pandershi?" Pierrot pressed on, ignoring the Landgrave's fury beside him. "Still missing. His ship is docked, but his new nebula has left too now. We haven't been able to track down either of them." Pierrot took in a deep breath. "Fine, very well. I'll make sure the Landgrave and the Prime Minister get to safety. You prepare for 'I speak to those throned in the seat of man.'" The words echoed across the planet, devouring all other sound in an instant. Their source was obvious. The Shishanaga itself. The Titan of War was being used as a glorified speaker, the air rippling around it from the sheer volume. No alcove, no alley, no crack in the earth could escape it. Nothing could escape the words of the Supreme. "I speak to those throned in the seat of man." The Supreme's voice rang out once again, the windows rattling at every syllable. Besides Pierrot, even the Landgrave had fallen silent, his face somehow even paler than usual. It made sense. The warrior had spent the day preparing for war, but this felt like something else. "We are one people. We are one humanity. The conflict between our nations, the Cold War that crawls over the galaxy like frost, it saddens me. I would have it end today, here and now, with peace." "Bullshit," Carl muttered to himself. Pierrot couldn't find himself disagreeing. What was Hadrian's angle here? The man who spoke like God spoke further still. "I have come here alone, without backup or support, to parley with you good people. I bring my palace to your doorstep. Should you wish to attack me, I have little recourse. Little recourse, even. I place my peace in your hands." Little recourse? Little shit, more like. Even if Hadrian was alone, the ship he was riding around in was capable of fighting a war by itself. They'd bring it down in the end, sure, but it'd do its damage while it floated there. "My doors are open. I will wait." The noise stopped. Jamie Pierrot took a deep breath. Fuck! When the meeting resumed, it was done via hologram. Representatives scattered across half a dozen sealed safe rooms throughout the seat of man, guarded by their nebulas and layers of additional security. "It's a trap," Shen Zhurong said seriously, hunched over the table, his face pale. "Without a doubt, it's a trap." The elders disagree," Misery Lock's flickering image replied. "If this is a chance for peace, they believe we should pursue it. A diplomatic envoy should be sent to the Sashana." He took a deep breath. "A diplomatic envoy should be sent to the Supreme ship to negotiate with him." Zhurong shook his head. "I'll say it again. It's a trap. If we board that ship, I guarantee you right now we're not leaving it. We'd just be handing him hostages." Well, in a way, the Supreme's our hostage right now, ain't he? Gainhill mused, hand on his chin. It's a scary ship, sure, but by itself there's only so much it can do. We lock down his exit route, we disable that baby, hell, we've got the Supreme himself as a bargaining chip. The Oba of Ngansi turned to look at his counterpart. They had ended up in the same room following the Shisha's arrival. That's easier said than done, my friend. He crossed his arms. The Supreme is an Aether user of the highest caliber. Even if we were to bring down his ship, there's a good chance he'd be able to escape and slip into the city. Even if we capture him, the damage would be tremendous. How about it, Nebula One? Gainhill looked up. You think you could take him? Zhurong followed Gainhill's virtual gaze to where his husband stood silently at the back of the room. His face was concealed behind his dragon helm, but Fei Long gave a curt single nod. I could, he said plainly. Well, there you go, Gainhill went on, waving a hand. We send Nebula One up to talk to the fella and see what happens. If it comes down to it, Fei Long just does what needs doing. Albert Reyes of the Lesser Chain tightened his grip on his cane. It's not that simple. If this turns into a fight against the Supreme himself, that's war immediately and without recourse. It should be war already, the Landgrave of Brainan growled, his cloak hanging heavy around him. That bastard has invaded our territory, and where is Pandershi? Is he involved in this? Pollyanna Botfly sighed. Her hologram had been enlarged slightly, making her proportions seem almost cartoonish compared to her fellow representatives. Who can say, Glorp? She threw her hands up. His nebula's up and vanished now too, so. The Supreme's a bigger issue anyway, Dibbly. Even if Nebula One can beat him in a fight, we need to make sure it doesn't turn into a fight at all, Polip. The Landgrave narrowed his eyes. Easier said than... For the first time in the gathering, in person or virtual, Agnes von Frostburn opened her mouth. Every pair of eyes turned to look at her. The cold Serena of Adrust mostly preferred to listen during these meetings, but that meant it was usually worth hearing her rare words. Hands clasped in front of her, Agnes smiled thinly. It's not easier said than done, she said calmly. We have a way we can stop this from turning into a fight with the Supreme. She stepped aside. May I formally introduce my new nebula? Get over here, Pirot said, voice low, speaking into his earpiece as he lurked in the corner of Albert Reyes' panic room. Bring Vantablack Squad too. It's all hands on deck. The building's locked down, as you well know, the widow's voice came back. How exactly are we supposed to get in? No games, Pirot hissed back, agitated. That's no obstacle for someone like you. Call me when you're inside. Suppressing the tremor in his hand, he switched his earpiece to another channel. Cole, where are you? Do you still have Musashi? Yeah, Zep Joel's... Joel? Someone likes The Last of Us a little too much. Zep Cole's infuriatingly relaxed voice came back. I was leading him out when everything started getting crazy. We're in the lobby, but the building's on lockdown. Can't get out, you know? Pirot nodded to himself. Good, good. As long as they were still inside, the lockdown wasn't a problem. In times of emergency, natural disasters and the like, the Seat of Man could serve as one of many shelters for the populace. With everything going on, someone had activated those functions now. Well, what could you call this situation if not a disaster? Get Musashi to a safe place as well, he demanded. We can't lose him right after we get him on board. As he terminated the call, the hands of Pirot's mind scrambled, trying to put back together the jigsaw collapsing around him. What was their next move? Did they accelerate and have Musashi face the Supreme now, spark the Civil War, or did they wait and give diplomacy the day? What should he do? What should he do? What should he do? The prince gave him nothing. Was it being interfered with, or was there no need for assistance here? Pirot didn't know that either. The feeling was like a cold claw in his chest. Get your resources to hand, Pirot told himself, steadying his breathing. Get your pieces together. Only then can you begin to play. I'm gonna see if I can get us a private room, Musashi baby, Cole winked, sauntering off into the crowd. Stick around, yeah? Musashi folded his arms as he rested his back against the fountain, his keen eyes fixed on one of the great videograph monitors that hung from the ceiling. On it was displayed a news feed of the Shishnaga, stationed right above the city. Looking at it on the screen was slightly easier than turning his head to look at it through the window, at any rate. His arms still crossed, he began to saunter off too. He'd play along with this Pirot's machinations for the time being, but he'd be damned if he'd serve as lapdog for that pest Cole. He wasn't the sort of person who could be told to just stick around. There seemed to be some sort of impromptu medical tent set up at the front of the fountain. It wasn't too serious, but a few people had suffered injuries from the initial arrival of the Shishinaga. Musashi stopped next to it, narrowing his eyes as he finally looked through the window before him and beheld the black blot of the Shishinaga. So, Hadrian was in there, right now. Musashi had fled halfway across the galaxy, and Hadrian had clawed his way across space to follow. There really was no escape from this, he supposed. Fate was a blade all of its own. Hell of a thing, huh? Musashi looked down. One of the medics, a young man with dark hair and one arm, had looked up in the middle of restocking a first aid kit. Musashi could see the reflection of the dread vessel in his wide eyes. It is. It is, Musashi replied somberly. The words didn't mean much. At times like this, when the world was spinning wrong, it was natural to want assurance that you weren't the only one seeing it. Slowly, the medic nodded, and kept nodding for a good few seconds too long. Eyes still locked on the window. My name's Rico, he said vaguely. Rico Blanco. How about you? I'm taking it this is Rico Arc 7?
Oh, yeah.
Musashi opened his mouth to reply, then realized that advertising his identity probably wasn't the best idea. Alright, you get this one. He had a rudimentary disguise in the form of a cap and a black visor, but still. Evos, he said after a moment. Evos Travensi. For those that don't know, in the very first chapter of Aetheral Space for a long time, in one instance, Musashi was called Avos, and it wasn't edited until, like, 8 arcs in. It's a little in-joke for those new fans who wouldn't know.
For true Aetherheads.
True Aetherheads. Rico nodded again, this time more forcefully, a jerk towards the window. Looks like they're sending something up. It was true. A black dot was zooming out from the Seed of Man's docks, heading up towards the Shishinaga. Musashi took another deep breath, locked in place amidst this crowd, standing on the edge of history. Something was beginning. The decision was made. A preliminary team of 2 would head up to the Shishinaga and meet with the Supreme personally. They'd hear what he had to say, ascertain his intentions, and, if they were benevolent, the work of diplomacy could proceed from there, even. If not, well, there was a reason the team consisted of 2 Nebula. Nebula 1, Fei Long, Nebula 5, Ruth Blaine. It was cold in the shuttle. Even with her pungent warmth, Ruth couldn't help but shiver. Perhaps it was just that cold. Or perhaps it was just how tiny they seemed as their vessel flew up into the maw of the great beast. This was this was the most heavily armed starship in the galaxy. If Dragon wanted it, the shuttle would disappear in a second. But Ruth couldn't see him doing it. After all, they told him in advance who'd be coming. This time I want answers, Dragon. This time I want to put a stop to this. Once and for all. Ruth hugged herself tight as she was pulled up into the belly of the beast. Hold on, my headset went off so I can't hear you. Alright, hello?
Hello.
There it is. Yeah, we did it. We finished the chapter. Do we have any Aetheral questions, though? I don't know if we do.
I believe we do.
Go to our server. Aetheral Space. Aetheral questions. Leaving off here. I think we got caught up last time. Or did we not? Are there any former Nebula in good standing still kicking around? Like ones who stepped down or otherwise? Where in the UAP is Pierrot from?
You asked me that. You got a message saying leaving off here.
Yeah, I know, and it links to that one.
You'll be going above it, so you're reading the questions from above it.
No. I'm reading from the last leave off here.
Well, it was Lesser Chain we said, yeah.
MT... Okay. Softy asks, how often is the competition to determine the nebula numbers? I'd imagine it'd be every time a new one joins, although that clearly seems to not be the case.
Annually.
Lan asks, does Dragon find all celestial phenomena boring or just stars?
He doesn't have that wild of an opinion, like, interest-wise in most celestial phenomena. I don't think he thinks about
Can he even name one constellation?
Yeah, probably.
That was a trick question, because constellations are different based on what planet you're on. So there's different stars you're looking at in the galaxy.
Gemini Dominion in 1,000 years. You betrayed by Dragon, he locked you in Dominion for 1,000 years.
Alright, so that was a pretty short one, but we only have, like, 2 more, so I'm going to save those for the next one. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.